Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky clash in an extraordinary exchange before the media at the White House over the conflict in Ukraine. Zelensky returns, leaving the meeting midway.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country.
World leaders react to an extraordinary Oval Office clash. European leaders, including EU chief Ursula von der Leyen, German Chancellor and UK Prime Minister strongly back Zelensky, while Russia's foreign ministry says Trump showed restraint. United States announces approval of sale of more than $3 billion in munitions, bulldozers and related equipment to Israel. And South Africa set to face England in the final Group B clash of the Champions Trophy. A high-stakes White House meeting between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ended in disaster, with both leaders clashing over Kiev's conflict with Russia. Zelensky was in Washington to finalize a minerals deal and to secure US support against Russia, but tensions flared as the two traded sharp exchanges in front of the media. Trump warned Zelensky that Ukraine had to make a deal with the United States or Washington would end its support in its conflict with Russia.
I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States, and your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing.
Donald Trump accused Zelensky of gambling with the lives of millions of people and of being disrespectful to the United States.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky pushed back on Trump's claims that Ukrainian cities have been reduced to rubble by 3 years of war. Trump stressed that Putin wants to make a deal. The meeting ended without an agreement, leaving Ukraine's diplomatic efforts in limbo.
You said that enough with the war. I think that is very important, Ben, to say these words to Putin at the very beginning of war, because he's a killer and terrorist. But I hope that together we can stop him. But for us, it's very important to, to save our country, our values.
US President Donald Trump escalated his criticism of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that he did not look like a man who wanted peace after their tense White House clash. Earlier, Trump accused Zelensky of disrespecting the United States as their meeting, meant to finalize a minerals deal, ended without an agreement, with Zelensky leaving the White House empty-handed.
We had a meeting today, as you know, with President Zelensky, and I would say it didn't work out exactly great from his standpoint. I think he very much overplayed his hand. We're looking for peace. We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up as strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war. This is a man that wants to get us signed up and keep fighting, and we're not doing that, not for this country.
Global leaders reacted to the heated confrontation between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House, with concerns growing over its impact on international alliances. Many European leaders reaffirmed their unwavering support for Ukraine, with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen assuring Zelensky that you are never alone and vowing to work towards a just and lasting peace. EU Vice President Kaja Kallas went a step further, declaring Ukraine is Europe and stating that the free world needs a new leader, signaling frustration with Trump's stance. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz emphasized his commitment to Ukraine, with Scholz stating that Ukraine can rely on Germany and on Europe. Similar support came from Sweden, Lithuania, France and the Czech Republic, all highlighting Ukraine's role in defending not just its own sovereignty, but also Europe's security. Russian Security Council Deputy Chair Dmitry Medvedev took a more aggressive tone, mocking Zelensky and praising Trump's handling of the meeting. Meanwhile, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, a known Trump ally, lauded the former president's approach, stating that strong men make peace, weak men make war. So after a tense White House confrontation with US President Donald Trump, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told a US media outlet that he respects both Donald Trump and the American people.
I respect President and I respect American people, and if I think that we have to be very open and very honest, and I'm not sure that we did something bad. So we are ready for peace, but we have to be in strong position. What does it mean? Just to know that our army is strong, that our partners with us, and that we have security guarantees.
And DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh joins us on the story from New Delhi. Shubhendu, would you call the Trump-Zelensky talks an utter disaster? And what is the failure of the minerals deal going to mean for the conflict in Ukraine now?
Well, yes, Tanvi, to put it mildly, we can call it disastrous. It could possibly have a catastrophic impact on the interpersonal geopolitical relations in the West, of course, for Ukraine and the Ukraine conflict. This minerals deal, the agenda because of which Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was in Washington, D.C., meeting President in the White House, was supposed to be a framework, a first step towards consolidating partnership between Ukraine and the United States, between President Zelensky and President Donald Trump. But as the meeting progressed and we saw those visible signs of feud, it did not come across as a meeting of allies. Clearly, it's not the United States and Ukraine partnership that dominated the last few years of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Both President Donald Trump and President Volodymyr Zelensky appear to be looking in different directions while trying to achieve peace in this conflict. President Zelensky clearly refused to step down from his stated position that it is Putin who has initiated this war. President Putin of Russia is the aggressor, he is the invader, he is the one who should be held accountable. Whereas President Trump was of the opinion that we have to find a middle ground, there has to be a compromise, but compromise was not something that President Zelensky wanted to talk about at all, and that really clearly opened the feud between the visiting leader and the President and Vice President of United States. And that gap appears to have become larger. That was only suspected earlier, has now really played out in public. From here on, it will be very difficult to get Ukraine and the US on the same platform. Huge setback for Ukraine, hoping for US guarantees as far as the ceasefire and the war with Russia is concerned. And also a big setback for Europe that was hoping that the Russia-Ukraine war could take a decisive turn from here.
Okay. Shubhendu, there is a growing view in Europe post this clash that Washington could no longer lead the free world. Do you think the Trump-Zelensky confrontation yesterday exposes the bigger divide between the US and Europe?
Oh, most certainly, Tanvi. And it's not just now. Past some time, Donald Trump's laments on NATO, the manner in which it disproportionately expects United States to lead the security grouping, invest in the security grouping. We saw shades of that, elements of that playing out here as well. We know that ahead of a visit of President Zelenskyy of Ukraine, Prime Minister of UK, President of France had also visited. They'd also impressed upon American president that this alliance is important, that Europe, West, America and Europe together must stand by Ukraine and speak in one voice if they were to maintain their relevance and influence. But that appears to be changing entirely. So President Trump is not just speaking in a different tone as compared to what President Zelenskyy was saying, but he's also looking in a different direction as compared to his European allies. And we see that just after this media feud that played out, support messages have been pouring in from most of Europe for President Zelenskyy. They continue to maintain their stand and support for Ukraine, whereas given the new stance of a certain pro-Russia position that President Trump appears to be articulating, most of his support after this dramatic feud has come from Russia and also Hungary. President Orban, an old-time supporter of President Trump.
Now, a major crisis seems to be, looming for NATO. What should be the way forward for the alliance and its future?
Tanvi, there has to be significant introspection now. The Western leaders, the statements have come that they will have to reorient, rethink the manner in which they want to proceed now with the NATO alliance. President Trump's priority appear to be different, and he makes no bones about it. He's talking about closer ties with Russia. Remember, the country around which the whole idea of NATO had really come into being. So if United States is set to reorient its ties, its economic ties, its security ties with Russia, NATO will have to find new reasons to articulate its importance and its presence, and huge pressure on Europe as well. Their investments in defense to think about their own security would require significant investments and focus. Remember, it is also a time of political flux in Europe, in France, in Germany, and in the UK. The political change that is taking place in such an environment for NATO to have to reorient its position, to reorient and realign its position vis-a-vis United States is going to be a tough job and could lead to wider geopolitical concerns.
Okay, thank you very much, Shubhendu Ghosh, for your analysis on the story. Shubhendu Ghosh reporting from New Delhi. Still to come on DD India News Hour. UN Chief Antonio Guterres says Israel and Hamas hostage deal and ceasefire must hold. South Sudan to replace army contingent in Upper Nile after clashes in two regions. And French President Emmanuel Macron signs bilateral agreements with Portuguese Prime Minister.
In a world increasingly shaped by climate challenges, we are all exposed to new risks. But efforts are being made to tackle these challenges.
Once you have per square kilometer accurate data, they will start mobilizing actions, and the top-down folks, will have an ability to focus on specific parts where the problem is.
By using locally grown food, we can not only reduce our impact on the climate, but also prevent lifestyle diseases.
I think this is extremely important to have this kind of community level engagement. And some of these awareness programs I am aware of are also providing some individual level strategy to really adapt to the situations.
We have community radio stations. We also have door-to-door information drives.
മുത്തോളം മുകിലോളം മലയാ
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. The United States on Friday announced the approval of the sale of more than $3 billion in munitions, bulldozers and related equipment to Israel. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio signed off on the sales of $2.04 billion in bomb bodies, warheads, another $675.7 million in other bomb bodies and guidance kits, and $295 million in bulldozers and related equipment. The U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency, DSCA, said that the United States is committed to the security of Israel and it is vital to the U.S. national interests to assist Israel to develop and maintain a strong and ready self-defense capability. The latest weapons transactions come after Washington approved the sales of more than $7.4 billion in bombs, missiles and related equipment to Israel earlier this month. Israeli delegation meanwhile returned from Cairo with no agreement on extending the Gaza ceasefire. Afterwards, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was due to hold consultations with security chiefs and ministers. Israel had sought to extend the 42-day truce agreed as a first stage in the ceasefire agreement through the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan, which begins this weekend. But Hamas wanted to move on to negotiations over the second stage. The agreement reached last month halted 15 months of fighting, allowing the exchange of 33 Israeli hostages and 5 Thais for around 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees, and was meant to lead to subsequent talks to build on the truce. Israeli officials have previously said Israel was ready to resume fighting in Gaza if all its remaining hostages are not returned. Egyptian and Qatari mediators asked for some time over the next few days to resolve the impasse over the ceasefire. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the Israel-Hamas hostage deal and ceasefire must hold as talks on a second phase of the agreement have resumed in Cairo.
The ceasefire and hostage release deal must hold. The coming days are critical. The parties must spare no effort to avoid a breakdown of this deal. I urge them to uphold their commitments and implement all of them in full. All hostages must be released immediately and conditionally in a dignified manner. The parties must ensure humane treatment for all those held under their power, and all transfers must be carried out in a dignified way and as per the terms of the deal.
On to Germany now. The first exploratory talks between Social Democrats and CDU took place in Hamburg on Friday, 5 days after the German snap elections. In Sunday's elections, the Conservative Party won and the Social Democrats fell to a historic low in the votes, came in third after the far-right Alternative for Germany. The head of the Conservative CDU and likely future German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, described the atmosphere as extremely good and constructive during the meeting. The two parties will meet for more talks next week after the state elections in the city-state Hamburg, where the Social Democrats are currently leading in the polls. A recent United Nations report highlighted that South Sudan's leaders are exacerbating violence and instability in the country. The report reveals that political and military elites are driving the ongoing violence, which is compounded by frequent clashes and political infighting. It condemns South Sudan's leaders for failing their people, highlighting serious human rights violations. The report highlighted that despite South Sudan's government earning $3.5 billion between 2022 and 24, there has been little progress in rebuilding vital infrastructure and civil servants remain unpaid. Corruption continues to obstruct development, and despite the 2018 peace agreement ending the civil war, no significant improvements have been made. South Sudan's Minister of Information, Michael Luth, announced the replacement of the army contingent in Upper Nile following the clashes.
In Upper Nile and specifically in Nasser area. طبعا الجيش بتاع ناصر ده they have stayed for long. And there had been a demand from the people of Nasser that these people should be replaced.
Nearly 2,000 people gathered outside the Greek parliament to mark the second anniversary of the country's deadliest rail disaster, which killed 57 people. The crowd gathered to demand justice for the victims of the crash between a freight train and a passenger train. The protest turned violent when hooded attackers threw firebombs and rockets at police, prompting a response with tear gas and stun grenades. At least 30 people were hospitalized. Hundreds of Serbian students arrived in the southern city of Nice after marching over 100 kilometers ahead of a massive anti-corruption protest set to begin on Saturday. Locals welcomed the protesters with flags, fireworks and flowers as the student-led demonstrations continue to shake Serbia. The protests, which erupted after a deadly train station roof collapse in Novi Sad, killed 15 people in November last year. This has fueled growing public anger over government accountability. French President Emmanuel Macron signed bilateral agreements with Portuguese Prime Minister Luís Montenegro at Porto City Hall during an official ceremony, shortly after the mayor presented him with the keys to the city. This official trip, the first by a French head of state for more than a quarter of a century, was intended by the Elysee Palace to mark the depth and density of the ties between the two countries. British Finance Minister Rachel Reeves hosted a roundtable with the defence sector in Lincolnshire after Prime Minister Keir Starmer pledged to raise UK defence spending but ordered the overseas development budget to be cut from 0.5% to 0.3% of gross national income to pay for it. Reeves reiterated, adding the aid cut is the right decision in the circumstances that they face today as a nation.
The decision to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence is the right decision. The world has changed. We can see that all around us in Europe and beyond. We have to uplift what we spend on defence, and we have funded that by reducing the international aid budget.
The US Social Security Administration has announced plans to cut 7,000 workers, reducing its workforce by over 12%. This move is part of the Trump administration's efforts to downsize the federal workforce. The SSA, which provides benefits to 73 million retired and disabled Americans, aims to reduce its staff from 57,000 to 50,000. The agency claims that the cuts will focus on non-essential functions and employees. Additionally, the SSA plans to close many of its regional offices from 10 to 4, which may further limit access to services. The Vatican stated Pope Francis, battling double pneumonia in hospital for 2 weeks, had an isolated breathing crisis on Friday. The Pope had an episode of vomiting with inhalation, leading to a rapid decline in his respiratory condition. This required aspiration to clear his airways, followed by non-invasive mechanical ventilation to assist with breathing. Despite these challenges, he remains alert, oriented, and continues his treatment. This comes after 3 days of more encouraging updates, with earlier reports indicating slight improvement. Pope has now been in Rome's Gemelli Hospital for 2 weeks, having been admitted on February 14th due to a severe respiratory infection that caused further complications. Meanwhile, faithfuls and visitors at Vatican's St. Peter's Square were concerned following news of an isolated breathing crisis experienced by Pope. The Catholics gathered at St. Peter's Square in the Vatican on Friday, some holding rosaries, candles and religious prayers as they prayed for Pope. On to India's north now. After a prolonged dry spell and very less snowfall during peak winter months, Jammu and Kashmir has been witnessing moderate to heavy rain and snowfall. It not only ended the dry spell but also brought down the precipitation deficit in the valley by more than 20%. And with 2 more western disturbances approaching towards the valley, the deficit could further come down within the next 2 weeks. Heavy snowfall and rain of the season has been experienced across Jammu and Kashmir region, besides many parts of Ladakh region during the past 24 hours. Over a dozen houses have reportedly been damaged in Ramban, Doda, Udhampur, Rihasi areas. Since last evening, 13 cattle perished due to lightning in Darhal and Koteranka areas of district Rajouri due to lightning on Friday. Meanwhile, the J&K Disaster Management Agency has also issued warning about avalanches in upper regions of Kashmir and Doda and Kishtwar districts of the Jammu region. And Tahir Nadeem Khan joins us from Jammu and Kashmir now. Tahir, several districts in Jammu and Kashmir have experienced snowfall. Has this been a reason for relief or a reason for worry for the people of the valley? We have Tahir Nadeem, can you hear me? Tahir Nadeem is joining us from Jammu and Kashmir. Let's try and connect with him again. It's been snowing in Jammu and Kashmir, and this has come after a prolonged dry spell and very less snowfall during the peak winter months. But a moderate to heavy rain and snowfall is being witnessed in the Kashmir Valley. It has brought down the precipitation deficit in the valley by more than 20%, and with two more western disturbances approaching towards the valley, the deficit could further come down within the next 2 weeks. Heavy snowfall and rain of the season has been experienced across Jammu and Kashmir region, besides many parts of Ladakh region during the past 24 hours. And Tahir Nadeem joins us on the story from Jammu and Kashmir. Tahir, if you could tell us which districts have experienced heavy snowfall, and has this been a reason of relief for the people of the valley?
Obviously, Tanvi, this came as a major relief because in the last 50 years, this was the worst dry period in this area, not only in Chenab Valley, but in Jammu and Kashmir as well. And till 27th of February, the deficit was 80%, which has come down to 40% in entire Jammu and Kashmir. If you are talking about Chenab Valley, that came down still more, that it has come down to 30%. It came a major relief not only for farmers, orchardists, agriculturists, and those associated with growing aromatic plants, but also for all the locals, because people here are totally dependent on glaciers for potable water, and for that to get them recharged, snowfall, a good snowfall is compulsory, and people were eagerly waiting for this snowfall. January, Feb, and even December, although this was severe cold, but that the cold was dry and very little snowfall was experienced. But this time, at this period of time, on 26th, 27th, and even on 28th February, a good snowfall was experienced, even rainfall in plains, and moderate to this low snowfall in these valleys, and very heavy snowfall was experienced in upper regions, which has recharged the glaciers. And people over here, especially farmers and those associated with tourism industry, they are very happy that it will bring good fortune for them during the summers. So people are very happy. But yes, there are some difficulties as well, because several roads had got washed away due to this rains and snowfall. And you are calling about that avalanches. Already 3 avalanches have struck in Kishtwar district at Padar, Chingam, and Dachan areas. Although there is no casualty or any injury to anyone, but that is a worrisome thing, because this period of the year, this period of the winters is considered prone to avalanches, snow avalanches. So people are taking precautions, and even administration has set up several these control rooms across all the 3 districts of Chenab region, this Doda, Ramban, and Kishtwar. So people are advised not to move in these avalanche prone areas. Even as a precautionary measure, the schools and educational institutions, which were scheduled to open on 1st of March after 2 months of winter vacations, they have been postponed till 7th of March. So administration is taking precautions, but yes, it came as a major relief, this snowfall, and people are expecting that the weatherman has predicted there will be another western disturbance on 3rd of March, so that can bring this deficit further down.
Okay, thank you very much. Tahir Nadeem Khan joining us from Jammu and Kashmir. still to come on DD India News Hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participates in the Sufi music festival Jahan-e-Khusro 2025.
India is known as the land of yoga. Few extraordinary individuals have taken this magic of ancient wisdom to people around the world.
Paramahansa Yogananda taught that, the basic law of right human behavior is self-reform. And that means if we can put the majority of our effort to changing ourselves for the better, then we will influence others in the world by our example. India has its ancient teachings of yoga has a real place to play in the developing world civilization. And what it means to be a global citizen, to consider the whole world kind of in your embrace.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. A quick relook at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy clashed in an extraordinary exchange before the media at the White House over the conflict in Ukraine. Zelenskyy returns, leaving the meeting midway. World leaders react to an extraordinary Oval Office clash. European leaders, including EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen, German Chancellor and UK Prime Minister strongly back Zelenskyy, while Russia's foreign ministry says Trump showed restraint. United States announces approval of sale of more than $3 billion in munitions, bulldozers and related equipment to Israel. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will shortly inaugurate the NXT Conclave 2025 at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi today. The conclave aims to bring together world leaders, policymakers and experts from diverse industries. Designed as a hub for intellectual discourse and groundbreaking initiatives, NXT 2025 aspires to drive global progress by promoting meaningful dialogue and actionable solutions. The forum will spotlight emerging technologies, governance and global challenges through 20 high-impact sessions. In Bangladesh, the student leaders who were at the forefront of last year's protests that ousted the then Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina officially launched their National Citizens Party (NCP) on Friday in Dhaka. Leaders of the newly formed party called for a Constituent Assembly election through which they aim to formulate a new constitution that will lay the foundation for Bangladesh's second republic. And DD India's Naval Sangh Parmar joins us on the phone line from Dhaka. Naval, how much of a following does Nahid Islam and his party, the National Citizens Party, have with the people, and what kind of prospect they can have in the next elections, which are due to be held by the end of the year? If they happen or not, that is a question, but what kind of a following do they have as of now?
The dates of election, there is uncertainty about that, and when it will happen, that is difficult to say right now. But we have to consider that there are around 34 big or small political parties who were invited on yesterday's event, And apart from that, 14 parties, including Awami League, they were excluded from the invitation. They were not invited. It means around 50 political parties are there in Bangladesh, small or big. And among them, 3 to 4 parties have a considerable following here in Bangladesh, and one of them is Awami League and Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP. They were ruling the Bangladesh since last 3-4 decades, one by one, Awami League or BNP. So they have their cadre strength, activists, their vote bank. Apart from that, there is a Jatiya Party, which is in North Bangladesh, mainly dominated in North Bangladesh. They have also a good hold over the northern part of Bangladesh. And the major factor nowadays, it is a Jamaat-e-Islami. That is also having a good organization. In last 10-15 years, they have spread their wings in the many pockets of Bangladesh. So they have very less space here, political space in political landscape of Bangladesh. So for them, Nahid Islam and their new party, it is too tough to carve some constituency where they can perform and they can win the election. Because there is almost 4 to 5 major political parties. They are having their own strengths and weaknesses. So their prospect is not as they have they are expecting. They will face challenge from BNP as well as even Awami League and Jamaat-e-Islami. So there is a tough time for them. But however, their chance, they have created a party and they have a good following. But at the time of ousting of Sheikh Hasina in July, August, they were sailing on the waves of public sentiments in favor of the student organizer or student protester. But in last 6 months, some of the student organizer or student leader created or done such kind of certain activities, and their involvement or their support in the vandalization kind of activities against the Awami League leaders and the Sheikh Hasina's father, Sheikh Mujib Memorial, etc. So in last 6 months, their popularity eroded. At the time of July, August, they were sailing on the public sentiment, but now they are facing a credibility crisis too. So they may face challenges from the political party as well as the other student organization. They are not now in favor of the new political party, or they are in opposition, or they are
the law and order situation
existence.
in Bangladesh is continuously deteriorating. Do you see a situation arising where the Bangladesh army could take over the reins of this interim government?
Yeah, it is law and order situation is, as you rightly mentioned, that it is deteriorated at the very, very low level. So people feel scary once it is dark. So night time, even police also advise people to avoid such certain stretch on the countryside of Bangladesh for the traffic. Out of fear of the looting or the dakati, that kind of thing. So law and order situation, particularly for the women and minorities and the vulnerable section of the society, the things is very, very bad, and that is accepted by the army chief as well as the many political party and public figure in Bangladesh, that the law and order situation is very bad. Now condition is very bad. So our army general, in 2-3 days back, made a statement that if you continue mud-sledging with each other and we will do in-fight within political party or with the 1 or 2 political party, then the things will be out of control and the situation may be volatile or hotbed for the Bangladesh democracy, as well as he warned that the our sovereignty or the existence of Bangladesh may be at risk.
Okay. Thank you very much, Naval Singh Parmar, for reporting on the story. Moving on now, world-renowned experts are enjoying a groundbreaking hydrogen bus ride from the iconic Taj to Bharat Mandapam, showcasing India's commitment to clean energy and sustainable mobility. Among the distinguished guests on board are physicist Brian Greene, MIT Professor Jonathan Fleming, Dr. Christian Gasparic from the mobility world, and venture capitalist Namit Choksi, leaders in their respective fields, discussing the vast window of opportunities India has in the hydrogen economy and clean energy revolution. The hydrogen bus ride reflects Prime Minister Modi's vision of a green and self-reliant India. This ride is not just a journey across the city, but a glimpse into the future of green transportation and innovation.
What you need to be a world leader is you need the people who are trained, who are creative, who are enthusiastic, who are energetic. And that's what you have in droves in this country. And so there's a huge opportunity for India to be a leader in this technology.
I think this is going to be significantly cheaper than your regular fuel. And so just in terms of cost parity, I think it'll make a lot more sense. So I think, yeah, to wrap up, I think two things, right? Sustainability, but also like cost parity and financial perspective, it makes a lot more.
I don't think there's a clear winner yet. I mean, there's been test operation for hydrogen. The Middle East is actually betting on hydrogen quite a bit. I would say none has really figured it out fully. Maybe India could be the first one.
India has all of the ingredients, starting with the leadership at the top, in order to become this global hub. Because the home market here is bigger than any other home market in the world. So if you're number one in the number one market, you have a really good chance at being the global leader.
Renowned physicist Brian Greene visits India and experiences the future of clean mobility with a hydrogen bus ride. Joined by global experts, he explores the immense opportunity India holds in the hydrogen economy. Aligned with Prime Minister Modi's vision, this journey symbolizes India's push towards sustainability, innovation and green energy leadership on the world stage.
Well, there is a lot of talk about green hydrogen and how green hydrogen can change the dynamics of the game when it comes to other countries. I've got with me physicist Dr. Brian Greene to help us understand. Dr. Brian, how do you look at the future of transportation?
Well, look, we have to be able to transport ever larger number of citizens around ever larger cities. We've got to find a renewable energy source that allows us to do that cleanly, and hydrogen is a wonderful possibility. So I'm thrilled to see it being put into practice here in Delhi, and so far this bus ride has been wonderful, so it certainly is working.
Dr. Brian, India has got a national hydrogen mission that's into play that the Prime Minister has ruled. Do you see India having a potential to be the hub when it comes to hydrogen production?
Yeah, look, you know, this country has as its greatest resource its people. You've got energetic, creative, smart, well-trained young scientists, and that's the way you can push technology forward. So is there a possibility for India to be the world leader in this technology? Absolutely.
So you've been a physicist. If there is one law of physics that you could change to bring hydrogen to the forefront, what would you do?
Well, look, if you're going to give me the option of changing the laws of physics, I'll change the conservation law of energy so we could perhaps create energy out of nothing. That would be the one I would change. But barring that, look, hydrogen as a fuel source is a real promising possibility. You have to be able to do that cleanly. You've got to be able to get that fuel source in a green way. And that's really the cutting edge. That's a challenge, and it's great to see work heading in that direction.
Okay. One final word, sir. When you look at hydrogen as the next alternative and no country being able to take the lead when it comes to be the leader, do you see the potential, a country like India, which has got large transportation network, you know, to be able to capitalize on it and become the leader?
Yeah, look, you've got a great motivation to put this hydrogen fuel source into practice in the transportation realm. You've got large populations that got to move around your cities, and to be able to do that cleanly with hydrogen fuel is a great motivation, and clearly it's been pushing you forward, and it's a real possibility that you will be the world leader in putting this hydrogen fuel source to work.
Well, that's exactly the point. You know, putting hydrogen into practice is something that's a challenge, and I think India has taken the challenge and moving forward. This is Anil Thomas for DD India from New Delhi.
Addressing the Indian diaspora, Chief Economic Advisor Dr. Venkatraman Anantanageshwaran elaborated on emerging market infrastructure development and the India success story. The High Commissioner of India, Prabhat Kumar, delivered the opening remarks for the event. DD India's Nazneen Ismail reports from Johannesburg.
Dr. Venkatraman Anantanageshwaran, the Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India, delivered an insightful talk on emerging market infrastructure development and the India success story.
Back home in India, infrastructure development has been in focus in all government efforts. India's journey in infrastructure development over the last decade stands out as a compelling success story among emerging economies.
The High Commissioner of India emphasized that infrastructure development is a key focus of the government's efforts, while Dr. Nageshwaran elaborated on how various infrastructure sectors have experienced rapid growth in a short span of time.
Let me now turn my attention to one of the most critical components of India's infrastructure, the railways. Indian Railways has undergone unprecedented modernization as the government's capital expenditure on railways increased by 77% in the last 5 years. The introduction of Vande Bharat trains has marked a new era of high-speed, comfortable travel, while the dedicated freight corridors are improving logistics efficiency. India's aviation sector has also expanded rapidly. While physical infrastructure has seen remarkable expansion, India's digital infrastructure revolution has been equally transformative.
Members of the Indian diaspora participated in a captivating panel discussion following the insightful talk by Dr. Nageshwaran.
I'm Nazneen for DD India, Johannesburg, South Africa.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi participated in the Grand Sufi Music Festival Jahan-e-Khusro 2025 in New Delhi on Friday. The event, which honors the legacy of the renowned Sufi poet, musician and writer Amir Khusro, was witnessed by Prime Minister, showcasing his commitment to promoting the diverse artistic and cultural heritage of India. The festival, organized by the Rumi Foundation and conceptualized by acclaimed filmmaker and artist Muzaffar Ali in 2001, marks its 20th anniversary this year. It brings together renowned artists from across the globe to celebrate the spirit of Sufism through soulful performances and artistic expressions. While addressing the gathering, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the importance of preserving and promoting India's rich cultural heritage.
संगीत एक ऐसी साझी विरासत है जिसको हम सब मिलजुल कर जीते आए हैं। हम सब ऐसे ही बड़े हुए हैं। अभी यहां नजरे कृष्णा की जो प्रस्तुति हुई उसमें भी हमारी साझी विरासत की झलक दिखाई देती है। साथियों, जहान-ए-खुसरो के इस आयोजन में एक अलग खुशबू है। ये खुशबू हिंदुस्तान की मिट्टी की है। वो हिंदुस्तान जिसकी तुलना हजरत अमीर खुसरो ने जन्नत से की थी। हमारा हिंदुस्तान जन्नत का वो बगीचा है जहां तहजीब का हर रंग फला फूला है। यहां की मिट्टी के मिजाज में ही कुछ खास है। शायद इसलिए जब सूफी परंपरा हिंदुस्तान आई तो उसे भी लगा जैसे वो अपनी ही जमी से जुड़ गई हो।
And next we take a look at other stories making news in India. Standing in solidarity with the global south, Indian Coast Guard ship Sachet has departed for Djibouti on Friday, carrying medical aid including 20 hemodialysis machines and 1 RO plant. This mission underscores India's dedication to providing assistance and support to countries in need, particularly in the global south. Indian Air Force has kept its medium-lift chopper Mi-17 V5s and light helicopters ready for relief operations in Chamoli district of Uttarakhand. The Indian Air Force will be ready to deploy its assets for relief operations in coordination with the local administration. These helicopters are agile and can navigate through narrow valleys, making them perfect for reaching remote areas affected by natural disasters. Tibetans in exile have begun celebrating Losar, the Tibetan New Year, in Dharamshala, Himachal Pradesh. The celebration started with special prayers in temple led by monks. This will last for 3 days. Losar, also known as the Tibetan New Year, is a significant festival in Tibetan culture, celebrated on the first day of the lunisolar Tibetan calendar. Heavy rains lashed several parts of the national capital on Saturday. Delhi witnessed a warm February this year, with the average maximum temperature for the month reaching over 20 degrees Celsius. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sporting action. First, updates from the ICC Champions Trophy. Australia entered the semi-finals of the Champions Trophy 2025 after their last match against Afghanistan in Lahore got washed out on Friday. Rain started during Australia's chase, and when it stopped, the ground was too wet for the ground staff to keep the umpires hopeful. The abandonment saw Australia share points with Afghanistan. Now, Afghanistan just have an outside chance to qualify for the semis. Before the rain arrived, Travis Head scored a quick-fire 50 as Australia reached 109 for 1 in 12.5 overs in their chase of 274. Earlier, Sadiqullah Atal and Azmatullah Omarzai scored fighting 50s as Afghanistan posted 273 in 50 overs, 273 all out in 50 overs. South Africa are set to face England in the final Group B clash of the Champions Trophy on Saturday. Afghanistan are still in the race for the final four. However, South Africa hold the advantage with a game in hand and a higher net run rate. A win against England will be enough for South Africa to qualify for the semi-finals. On the other hand, England, who have been eliminated from the tournament, are looking to secure their first win. England arrive into their final group stage fixture on the back of skipper Jos Buttler having stepped down as the white ball captain. And India's Narayan Singh joins us for more on the ICC Champions Trophy updates. Narayan, so it has been a very bad showing for England in this tournament. Will South Africa hope to pile more misery on the out-of-contention England?
Good morning, Tanvi. As you mentioned, that the tournament was not up to the mark for the England, but this is their bad form, their bad patch has been since the 2023
Narayan, would
World
request
Cup.
you to stay with us as we are going to this live event of ITV.